Hi there, and Honkai Star Rail is about to be officially released next week, so in this video we're gonna talk about a thing which might be really interesting and important for you exactly day one of playing the game, which is rerolling, of course. To be more precise, in this video we're gonna talk about what characters to aim for while rerolling in Honkai Star Rail. And first of all, I want to make few disclaimers. Firstly, if you have some units which characters you really enjoy, you just want to get exactly those characters in your collection, you just want to play them because you enjoy their gameplay, you can easily go for those exact characters because, again, at least from what we know now, this game, Honkai Star Rail, is not that competitive. You actually can finish the story with any 5-star character from base pool, so it's not that important. It's much more important to actually enjoy the game and get some fun from playing it. So this is the first thing. The second thing, if you still want to reroll for some efficient characters, I really recommend you making a list of 2, maybe 2-3 characters you actually want to get from rerolling, and after you get any of those 2-3 characters, you just keep that account and start playing the game, because again, already in the game, the chance to get any 5-star character is really low, and if you even lower it by selecting one specific 5-star character, it may take up to maybe a week or 2 to actually get this exact character, and this may lead to burning out or something else, losing the interest. So it's much better to select maybe 3 characters which you want to get from rerolling, and just when you get any of those, even though it's maybe not your favorite character, but anyway, you will be able to also get one 5-star character guaranteed from 300, so you just get that character from the list and start playing the game. And the last thing is, even though we are actually doing this in the format of a tier list, you see there are tiers, they still are not like the iconic tiers like SS, S, ABC. This is just like a table to actually help us explain the main idea, so don't judge it from the perspective of a tier list, especially don't mess it up with like the first weeks of the game tier list, because again, we only will look at like base 5 stars you can actually get from rerolling. We are not comparing them in terms of like usage with other 5-star characters, because again, it's only a rerolling and you can get only one. Like in regular circumstances, you can only get one 5-star character. Also, of course, we are not taking into account, for example, Eidolons 1 to 3 up to 6, again, because in normal circumstances you can only get one copy of the character from rerolling. And also a bit different is our method of estimating the strength of the characters, because again, different to regular tier lists, here we really value the early game potential of the characters, because here is where we can actually get them from rerolling. And also for us, really important is their late game potential, because it's partly why we are rerolling. In the late game, we can actually make some strong synergies which require some characters, and here we can't actually get them for guaranteed, except 300 guaranteed, which we can't actually get to first month of the game. So here, now with everything set, we can actually put some characters on some positions. Let's start from something neutral, like Bailu, for example. She is really good character to aim for while rerolling, because again, she has a really big advantage, because exactly on the release of the game, she's the only 5-star abundance character, which means she's a healer. And even though on exact start of the game, when you only play the story, when you're not into late game activities, it's not that important. But in the late game, you will even need 2 healing characters. So even though you're getting Natasha for free, which is also abundance character from 4 stars, Bailu is still important. Again, her importance is because of her being one of the first 5-star abundance characters. After some time, when maybe a few banners will be released and few new abundance 5-star characters will be released, she might be power creep. That's why we can say that she is the best character to aim for while rerolling. but definitely like getting her at the start actually gives you opportunity to then aim for some hunt or just damage dealing characters, not caring about healers since you already have two. So at this point she's really good and stable character to actually reroll for. Let the next character we're gonna discuss to be Clara, because she's also a neutral character to reroll for, but she's much worse than Bailu. She's okay character to reroll for. Again, if you really love her, if you like how the counterattack team performs, then she might be good character to reroll for. But in general, she's just okay because again, she really is selfish character. She requires the whole team to be revolved around her counterattacks, and that's not a thing you might want to do first priority. That's why she's not that strong. Again, she might be power creeped. I don't think that if in future we'll get some additional counter-attacking units, they will actually work good like in one team. I think they might just replace Clara. That's why she might have some problems. Again, we can't actually predict what will happen in future because we can have the opposite when actually counterattacking units will become really strong. But for now, at least based on the information we have from closed beta 3, we can say that she is some type of a really super strong character. About Jeopard, again, I think we already know everything we have to know about him. He has actually two strong competition already, which actually is a sign that he is not that strong unit. Like potentially he might be replaced by some other preservation 5-star unit, which will be anyway released in future. So at this point we might actually say that this is just like a regular 5-star preservation character which does not have any interesting gimmicks, and he might be replaced by some other stronger 5-star preservation characters in future, so you will want to actually summon for them and you will replace Jeopard like any time you are able to do this. That's why he's not that good. If you really want him, I don't know, if you just like his personality, then you can reroll for him, but it's not that necessary. Now, if we talk about Himeko, it really depends on your attitude to this character, to her personality and gameplay both, because in general, Erudition Path, which is a synonym to AoE damage, is not that necessary for now. Again, it might change at some point. Erudition characters might become really useful, and if you, for example, reroll for Himeko because you just love her as character, and at some point at any way erudition characters will become necessary, then you already have an erudition character. This actually gives you space to, for example, summon and save up for some hunt characters or destruction characters, since you already have an erudition character. And we can say that Himeko, again, like it's hard to compare because we have not that much characters in general, but for Erudition Path, I think, judging by her kit, she is a solid erudition character, and you can actually use her in future if Erudition Path will become really useful and needed. So at this point we can say that she's okay, again, if you really love her personality, but in general it's more if you just really want this exact character. So that's all with Himeko. Now let's get to Welt, and about Welt, I think he's a solid good character to aim for if we're talking about rerolling, because again, we might say lots of ifs. For example, at some point of the game, lots of enemy bosses might have immunity to his debuffs, or some other Nihility characters might be released in the future, and they might just replace Welt at this point. But on the other hand, actually Welt is an imaginary element, so he is at this point a bit specific. Also, he's an Nihility character, which is definitely an advantage, because you can use him as sub DPS, like aggressive support, so you don't have to care about, like, for example, summoning for supportive units. You can actually save up and summon for DPS main units, while just using Welt in every team just because he can be used as sub DPS supportive unit. So at this point, I think, especially on the start of the game, he is a really good unit. At some point, his niche might be like removed from the game just because he's not as useful, but anyway, I think he will actually find some uses even in the late game. So that's all with Welt. Now let's get to Yanqing, and I think he's a really okay character to, again, aim for if you are rerolling, because he's a DPS character, he's hunt character, and if you are not, for example, aiming to get Zilla from just summoning, then this character is really good. We can say this is the best damage dealing character you can get except Zilla. And of course he has his problems, he has his disadvantages compared to Zilla. For example, his main gimmick is Empathic Sword, and it makes him a bit slower, not in terms of the speed as a characteristic, but in terms of gameplay. You have to trigger Empathic Sword and then he really can deal his damage. But anyway, this is a really strong character, and again, this comparison with Zilla shows that he is not that weaker than the new potential hunt characters that will come out. Again, his main problem is anyway, hunt characters might be the most hyped characters, and developers at some point might release lots of other hunt characters, and of course new, stronger characters will at some point power creep Yanqing. But anyway, if you really want to start your game with damage dealing, it actually touches both Yanqing and Clara. If you really want to use those base damage dealers, for Yanqing it's just pure damage dealing, for Clara it's counter-attacking. You can actually reroll for them, but again, you have to keep in mind that the biggest threat of power creeping actually comes to damage dealing characters. That's why they are not as good as, for example, Bailu or Welt or Bronya, which is actually the best character to reroll for. I think that was obvious. Lots of people understand that this is the strongest character. Again, lots of things which we consider as her advantages come from Welt. The same idea. You use this character as your supportive unit for any damage dealing character you want. You can use some 4-star characters with lots of eidolons. You can use some 5 stars which at some point will come out in the game. It doesn't matter if those are hunt characters or destruction characters or maybe even nihility characters. With Bronya it's actually whatever you want, and Bronya just boosts all of them. Again, we can say that at some point some other Harmony characters from 5 stars list, of course, will be much stronger than Bronya, but honestly, with her kit, we can already say that she has at least her broken skill. Again, we might see even more stronger skills in the future, or we might even see Bronya being reworked on the release of the game. You still have to keep that in mind. You have to recheck that on the release of the game, and then I think reroll for some character, because at this point any of these characters may be shuffled. We might see some power up for example Himeko or Jeopard. We may see some nerf for Bronya, for example, or I don't think they will actually nerf Bailu. For Welt, I also can't say that they are definitely gonna nerf him, but about Bronya it might happen. So for now, based on things we know from closed beta 3, we might say that Bronya is the best scenario. If not, then of course she might drop to good or maybe okay tier. Again, it really depends on what they will do with her and what they will do after the game is released, after the month, when we can't actually really predict what will happen, because we knew the first month, the most likely what will happen the first month of the game based on closed beta. After that, it's actually just going blind. We don't know what will happen. But this is my list. Again, you can share in the comment section what characters you will be aiming at the start of the game while rerolling. I still think that the best idea is to actually select 3 characters. Again, based on this list, I think it's Bronya, Bailu and Welt. If you don't really like Welt, if you don't like his playstyle, you don't like those semi-damage dealing units, then you can actually, for example, select Yanqing or Clara. Again, if you really like counter-attacking units. If you don't like counter-attacking units, but you really love, for example, Himeko, you can actually reroll for these 3. And if you don't like Himeko, but you just in love with Jeopard, you can actually reroll for those 3. So I think this works somehow like this. Again, everything depends on you, and you can share in the comment section. Maybe you at all don't want to reroll because you think that it's too time consuming and the result won't actually worth it. We'll see, and that's all for now. Thanks for your kind attention and see you soon.